Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and I am joined today by Chloe, and we are here to talk about the mid-set mechanics rundown. Mid-set is here. There was already a video about champions with me and Ritrock. You can go check that out. But today we are going to talk about the mid-set mechanics and all the different changes coming to Reckoning for the mid-set for Dawn of Heroes. So Chloe, how you feeling about this? You excited? You ready to do this?
Very excited. I'm super stoked about the radiant mechanic.
Nice. All right, well, let's jump into it. First off, some small things to get out of the way. First off, we've got small orbs are now always 3 gold of value. What this really means is that there are no more 4 gold starts. So hopefully your starts shouldn't feel anywhere near as bad if you get that low roll. Helps take care of that, and that should be a nice positive thing for the start of the game. In addition, we're adjusting some of the base items. You can see 4 of those adjustments here. Chloe, any in particular you're excited for?
Yes, I'm super excited about Banshee's Claw. We're reprinting the current Shadow Trap Claw as the base Trap Claw, calling it Banshee's Claw. I've been missing this change, even playing on live. I'm like, oh, when are we gonna get Trap Claw into Banshee's Claw so I can easily get a spell shield for one of my other units? And I'm happy that one of the shadow items has managed to sneak its way into the ongoing item pool.
Yeah, it's definitely a more flexible and exciting version, using it to power up a carry. Personally, I'm excited for Hand of Justice. The ability to always guarantee some amount of Omnivamp, I think, makes it a much easier item to slam so that you don't end up with that low roll. And then obviously we have to talk about Dragon Claw getting a pretty big rework here. The fact that now you can actually use it early and get some extra damage with those burns. Now, that being said, this Dragon Claw here says 25% true damage. As of filming this, I think it'll actually go to PBE at 30% magic damage. We're going to start a little lower and safer to make sure it's not quite, the overpowered item that some of you think it might be. And if we have to buff it later, we have to buff it. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Moving on. Why don't you tell us what's happening to shadow items?
Shadow items are gone. The forces of good have won out over evil. They have driven out the shadows and replaced them with light. So shadow items are getting replaced with radiant items,
Yeah.
which I will talk more about in a second.
Nice. Yeah. With all the shadow items gone, that means Shadow Spatula is gone. So no more, Force of Darknesses, unfortunately. But we're also taking, that means, no more Shadow Emblems. So we're taking the opportunity to adjust some of the base emblems. Uh, Armor plus Spatula instead of Ironclad is going to be Cavalier. We think that's just a much more interesting, build to make rather than just a bunch of generic armor. And then Bow plus Spatula will no longer be Legionnaire. It will be Hellion. We like the idea of getting to see a bunch of tiny champions pop out of that portal and, chasing the new 2-4-6-8 structure on Hellion. So hopefully that should make a lot more interesting builds using just the base spatulas and base emblems. As far as the armories themselves, 2-2 is now 2 normal components instead of a normal and a shadow. 4-2 is back to 100%, but it's no longer one of the enhanced armories. It's a normal one that will either have 2 normal components, 3 normal components, or if you're lucky, 3 normal components and a special item. And again, to stress, if you get 3 normal components and a special item, every player gets the same thing here. So there's no unfair advantage, but it just adds a little variety into that 4-2 armory. So now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about the new stuff. Chloe, why don't you tell us about Radiant items and the Radiant Armory?
Yeah, so you'll notice we talked about what's happening with the 2-2 and the 4-2 armories. The reason we did not mention the 3-2 armory is because it has moved to 3-6, and it is now filled with radiant items. These are all completed items. You get a pick of 5 completely random radiant items every game. Whichever radiant item you pick here is your radiant item for the game. It's going to be about twice as powerful as the base version. And the only way to get a different one is going to be if you use Reforger on it, and then you're going to be rolling the dice across the entire shadow item pool. So, good luck.
Yep. Cool.
But
so we had 2
so
goals
these
for
items
these, yeah.
come fully built. They aren't made from components.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's part of what we're doing to try to make this a little bit easier to navigate. The other thing is that all of these items are going to be used in essentially the same way as how their base version is used. So if Bramble Vest is good on a champion, Rose Thorn Vest is also good on that champion, and you can feel good about slamming it on that champion without needing to read and fully understand what Rose Thorn Vest does.
Yeah. That
The other thing is that since you're only getting one radiant item, you can focus on how to maximize the value you're getting out of that one radiant item instead of trying to figure out how to deal with a whole bunch of them. And I'm so sorry, Mort, I keep
No, you're good.
not letting you talk.
No, this is good. This is good. Everything you just covered is absolutely correct. I know I'm personally excited for the whole being able to use it in the exact situation. I think one of the hard things about shadow items was like, oh, I got a risk thirster instead of a bloodthirster. Let me put that on my set 3. Wait, that's terrible? Oh, I'm screwed. And that won't happen with these items, so I'm personally looking forward to that a lot. The other thing to call out real quick is just our goal is that all 36 items are appealing and something worth choosing. We're going to go over those a little later, but definitely as you play PBE, let us know if any aren't appealing. If there's anything that just like, oh, I would never take that. We need to know right away. So,
Yeah.
cool.
The radiant items are supposed to all be appealing, and they're supposed to all be a little bit game defining.
Yeah.
So they're gonna should have like a pretty decent impact on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll give everybody a chance to revisit the days of the Chosen Challenge.
Oh, that's true. I get to do the win with all 36 radiant items.
Yeah, have fun.
That'll be fun. All right. Another new mechanic coming is the Radiant Blessing. So this one is when you drop below 40 HP, you get a Radiant Blessing. Every player gets the same thing. So if what's inside of it, let's say it's 10 gold, every player is going to get their 10 gold, but it is different every game. So you can see in this example, the player dropped below 36 health, opened their blessing, and got 2 components and a rel. So
one note about everybody getting the same thing. If what you're getting is 2 components and a rel, what everyone is getting is 2 random components, which might be different from yours, and a 4 cost,
yep.
which might be different from yours. So not everybody is going to be running the
Jeweled Gauntlet Rel.
Great Jeweled Gauntlet Rel.
Perfect. I do think that is important though, because I know back when we did this with the Galaxies, when everyone got like the exact same items, it forced the situation where like everyone was playing the same build. So thankfully there'll still be some adaptation here. So I think that'll be good. Now, this is a cool part in the video where normally we just leave it at that, but for those of you that are really interested, here is the full table of everything that can drop from the Radiant Blessing and their odds as we go into PBE. Now, keep in mind, these may change as we find out on PBE, but Chloe, can you explain how to read this thing?
Sure. So the first thing is the orb quality. We first roll whether we're giving the game a high roll orb or a medium, a normal quality orb. This way we can easily change like what percentage of games are a high roll game. If like, okay, there are too many games that are just too insane, we don't have to go put each of them down by a tiny percentage. But then if you get a high tier game, then you're just looking at the column on the far right. Sorry, I'm gesturing at my screen, which is a meaningless gesture to be making. But if you roll medium, then you're going to be rolling both on the lesser quality content and the medium quality content tables. So you're going to get a combination of 2 things.
Right. So 2 examples. Yeah. Why don't you do a medium example and I'll do a high example?
Sure. So the absolute best roll, or arguably one of the absolute best rolls you could get from a medium quality orb would be you could get a bat and 10 gold and a component.
Yeah.
Or you could get Tome of Traits and 8 gold.
Yep, exactly. Or if you low roll it, you can get 10 gold and nothing, or a loaded dice and nothing.
But then, a loaded dice and nothing is not terrible, but not great.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you high roll, you can get something in this high quality content, which could be a Force of Nature, 2 Thieves' Gloves, or because somebody had to put it on here, 50 gold.
Okay, so hear me out. I added this new tech that spreads the gold coins out further, and but like only if there's more of them, and I just really want to make you all run all over your little screens and pick them all up like you're playing
Amazing.
Sonic or something.
Amazing. Now, that being said, you can even look here, and we've included the actual percentages of that happening. And you can see that the odds of getting 50 gold are actually 0.1%. So, 1 in 1,000 games, someone is going to get the 50 gold experience. Whereas the odds of getting, a Tome of Traits and nothing is 13.5% and 9%. And so, much more common that you get a pretty normal sized game. But give us some feedback. Let us know if anything on here is weird. I personally really want to try the 2 Tome of Traits game. That's the one I'm looking forward to. But
For those of you who are going to be staring at this, wondering what is that column to the right of the percent column, that's what Mort's talking about when he's saying the total odds. That's a
yeah,
calculation of what are the odds of that per any game rather than assuming we've rolled
right,
this type.
cool.
So now
But
you
yeah,
know.
let us know how these games go. Give us clips of you opening that 50 gold if you get it. Like I said, it's 5 times rarer than a Force of Nature start, so should be interesting. All right. Speaking of Tome of Traits, since we mentioned that a couple times, and some of you might not know what a Tome of Trait is, Chloe, why don't you tell us what a Tome of Trait is?
Yeah, hopefully we've built up enough suspense for this that it's exciting. So this is going to be a new drop that we're going to be giving from Radiant Blessings primarily, but also pretty rarely from Gold Orbs that'll drop with PBE rounds. When you use it, it's going to give you an armory that's going to have, that's going to have 4 emblems in it.
Yep.
At least one of those emblems is going to be an uncraftable emblem, also known as an elusive emblem. So that's these, on this screen you can see the Nightbringer emblem and the Revenant emblem. The emblems that we took out when we took out shadow items, they are sticking around in the game, and so are a few new ones, like the Night emblem and the Mystic emblem, which are new to the party. This is not the only way to get them. They can also come up in other armories or on the carousel. But, it comes from the cool Tome of Traits book, so this
Yep.
way is extra exciting.
Yeah, this is pretty cool because it is an item that sits on your bench, and then you drag it into the shop to activate it, which is kind of cool. A little different than our other consumables. And then, as Chloe mentioned, the thing I really want to highlight here is that there is an emblem for every trait in the game except the 5 cost uniques. So there's a Ranger emblem, there is a Draconic emblem. You already mentioned Knight and Mystic. Every single trait now has an emblem, which also means we've added some new chase traits and things like that. And like Chloe mentioned, you can get these on the carousel. So a bunch of new opportunities for some really interesting compositions. I'm personally looking forward to Ranger Heimerdinger. See if we can get that going. But
really quickly, I want to,
yeah,
if any of you are worried about this, I want to set your fears to rest. I know some of y'all are paranoid. I've seen the streams. I know some of you are paranoid about opening up an orb and losing the champions that are inside of it if your bench is full. That
uh,
physically cannot happen with Tome of Traits. It will not let you open the orb if it's got a Tome of Traits in it and your bench is full. So
yep,
be free. Don't be paranoid.
amazing, awesome. All right, so that is the Tome of Traits. So that is it for all the new stuff. If you've watched the video up to this point and you don't want to watch us go over every Radiant item, by all means, feel free to check out. Go enjoy the PBE. Let us know what you think. But for those of you that want to see all 36 Radiant items, we're going to dive through these real quick and sort of talk about our highlights, maybe some things to look out for. Because again, the goal is all 36 should be pretty freaking sweet. So, all right. So with that, let's kick into this. Chloe, anything on this page you want to highlight?
Yes, I want to talk really quickly about Hextech Lifeblade. I am super excited about it. The only thing to me that was wrong with the Shadow Gunblade was that it did not also heal me, and now it does. Plus gives some ability power, so it's not just healing for the team. I think it's a cool thematic Radiant item that feels very good aligned, and I am stoked to play it in game.
Yeah, I think the fact, like you mentioned, the fact that you heal yourself now, like this item just became amazing on someone like Vel'Koz that you couldn't use it on before. So this is going
Right.
to be a pretty cool one. Cool. Demon Slayer, I think, is worth talking about. You'll notice that not only did the damage go up, but also the threshold went down for how to activate it. Most 2 stars have 1400 health or more. So this item is going to be very powerful. It basically says you do double damage because it's also a unique damage multiplier. This item, I think, is going to be real strong if you want to amp up your primary carry. It will not do well against small things, but it'll do really well against everything else.
I'm
Cool.
also excited about Guardian Archangel. Coming back with absolutely full health is going to be pretty ridiculous in
Yep.
some situations.
All right. And just so we're not excited about all of them, no one's excited about Deathblade. Deathblade's just, more AD, so,
Y'all will be excited about Deathblade no matter what I say about Deathblade.
It's
Deathblade doesn't
true.
need my advertisement.
It's true. All right, next slide. Which ones do you want to talk about here?
I want to talk about Spear of Hirana. One, I love Spear of Shojin, so, Spear of Shojin, but more, I'm sold. But two, I want to quickly explain the name for those of you who haven't delved deep into the lore. The Spear of Shojin. Shojin is a reference to the Shojin monastery that Lee Sin is a member of. Hirana Monastery is a monastery that Udyr is a member of, and they are connected. They're friends. Go read the lore.
Nice. I will say 25 mana per auto, because that's 15 additional. It's pretty nutty.
Yeah.
Your Vel'Koz casts in 4 autos. Like, Heimerdinger casts in, 6 or 7. It's kind of nutty. So, cool.
Yeah. And the most important use case, Lulu will be able to realistically turn people into cats for as long as she wants. So
True. I want to talk about Bloodthirster, because one of the challenges anytime we make an Omnivamp item or Spell Vamp or Lifesteal item is that you're giving up the damage that makes the lifesteal better, so it feels kind of weird. With this item, you get more lifesteal and shield, but you also get the damage to amp up the lifesteal. So this feels like you're not actually even giving anything up. I think this item's going to be insane on Draven, Aphelios, Akshan. I think this item is going to be real appealing.
yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go to the next slide. Anything you want to talk about on this slide?
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked about Runons. I think it's a simple thing, but dealing 110% of your attack damage is gonna be pretty insane, especially while still applying on hit effects.
Yep.
I'm just gonna be building that all over the place.
The thing about this one, I think this is one of the really good items that demonstrates one of the problems with the Shadow system, because Shadow Hurricane was very confusing because you didn't want it on Vayne and you didn't want it on Yasuo, even though those are their core items. Whereas this, you can definitely still put, Vayne with Forgotten is still going to be good and still going to want this item, and this item's going to be even better. So that's why I just think this is a better system overall.
Yeah, the situation of I've got a cloak on my bench, and so I go to Carousel and I'm like, I want a bow. I want a bow.
Yep.
And then I run out and I grab a shadow bow, and then I'm like, I pranked myself.
Yeah.
This does not solve my problem.
Yep, exactly. RFC, I want to bring up a little bit just because we're back to 2 hexes. It's Fate's RFC, it's back, and it has even more attack speed. I'm expecting to see at least a few Yasuos with this, but we'll see. We'll see if it actually is powerful. This is one I could also see getting some extra Radiant bonus as time goes on, if we don't see people chasing it. But that being said, 2 hex range, we've seen it in the past. This item can get pretty nutty, so.
Yeah.
Cool. Ginsu is pretty straightforward. Titan's Vow, pretty straightforward. Although there are some great champions that can use Titan's Vow now, so.
Yeah. Repeated damage application from Brand or Vel'Koz. Oh yeah, they deal damage every half second or whatever.
I like I said,
stacks.
Fiddlesticks has been my secret weapon with this item, so.
yeah, Fiddlesticks, it's actually truly very good on.
Yeah. All right, next slide. Ooh, lots to cover on this one. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Hmm. I want to talk about ZZ Rot Portal, or
Go for it.
ZZ Rot's Invitation.
Go for it.
The taunting everyone within 4 hexes is enormous. That is so much of the screen.
Yep.
You are getting the entire enemy team to attack you. So this is probably, if I had to pick, the closest item of all of these items to one of our shadow items, in that you probably can hurt yourself with it. Be
True.
careful about who you're making the whole enemy team attack.
True.
Choose wisely.
True. But that being said,
but then,
3,000.
by the way, even if they die instantaneously, even if you put it on a Vayne that you've stuck in your front line just to watch her suffer, you are getting this big Radiant Void spawn.
Yeah.
Which we were showing the stats here. Obviously, it's got better stats than the base Void spawn.
Now, the thing I actually don't remember, and I didn't have a chance to check this before we aired this, was
Oh no.
I took this screenshot at stage 1. I don't remember if this thing scales up with stages. I think it does, but I don't remember.
That's a good question.
So we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But either way, 3,000 health, 150 AD. That's like basically a free A-bomb. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm not 1,000% sure whether or not its stats scale up with stage. I will say it does fall off. I've played it, and I know that for sure.
Fair enough. But again, same thing. If we need to buff it, we'll buff it. So, any others you want to talk about here?
It falls off catastrophically.
Right. Any others you want to talk about here?
Not really. I'm excited about Rose Thorn Vest. I like it, and a few other items have a small health regeneration that I think will be really good with renewers to help get them so that they're renewing their mana. Or like just any tank.
Yeah, the damage on Rose Thorn went up a lot. Also, I think that's triple the damage.
For sure.
So, yeah. One I want to cover here is Static's Favor. The big thing here is you'll notice the Magic Shred didn't go up. It's just the damage, particularly the number of bounces. This hits 8 enemies. This hits the whole team all the time. That is surprisingly a lot of damage. I think there are some pretty good Hellion builds with Tristana that use this. Ranger builds that can use this. I think this is finally taking it to that point where like this could be really good. So
Hellion builds and Ranger builds, also a list of things that it's going to be really good against.
True. It'll burn them down. True. That's true. Cool. All right, next slide. Okay. I want to talk about one first on this one here, which is Locket of Targon Prime, which I think since we previewed it, we had to lower the shield 100. But this thing, really have to point out that this shields 3 hexes to the left and right, not just 2. So this can shield an entire team of 7 people, giving them each 600, 700 health shield that doesn't expire. Like, this thing is insane on, like, a Legionnaire comp, an Assassin comp, hell, even a Ranger comp. It's like, grats on your free front line. This thing is nutty. Like, I think this item is one of the nuttiest ones we've printed.
Speaking of congrats on your free front line, Radiant Stoneplate is going to be, similarly, if you've got a 7-unit backline and a 1-unit front line, pretty insane. It does regenerate health. So sort of like if you had both Gargoyle Stoneplates in 5.0, you're going to be regenerating maximum health, and that maximum health you regenerate is going to be way more valuable because you have a ton of armor and magic resist.
Yeah, the thing to point out here is that's 35 armor and MR for each enemy targeting. So you get 5 enemies targeting. You get 5 enemies targeting. It's a lot of tankiness. That is a super defensive item. Finally, Frozen Heart of Gold here. If you remember Adept from Fates, it's like, what if Adept, but all the time, and by the way, you start with 45 starting mana. I know a lot of people really didn't like Shadow Frozen Heart Diana. Radiant Frozen Heart Diana's probably scarier. Because not only does she jump into your back line and apply it, she instantly casts her spell and blows up your team. So this item can be pretty crazy too.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Sunfire. It's just Sunfire.
Oh.
It's great. It's great. So
Yeah, Sunfire, but more.
yeah. All right. You want to talk about Shroud?
I do. So Shroud is an item that we talked earlier about trying to make it so that you use items on the same champions that you would use them on, that you would use their base version. We also, in general, want using them to feel essentially the same as using the base version. So that's why with Shroud and a couple of other items that are similarly like, well, this is a utility item that's like what champion I put it on isn't really about the champion.
No.
So we've leaned into that with its radiant bonus, and we've made the Shroud beam wider, and we've increased the mana penalty. But we've also made it so that the extra radiant bonus, which is 15 starting mana for all allies, that doesn't matter who it's on either.
Yeah.
So, and everyone's going to cast a little bit faster, and I can say for sure 15 might sound small, but having that much of like a tempo advantage on the enemy team for your whole team is huge.
Yeah. Like you said, this one's really great because you can focus on just putting it in the right spot. Doesn't matter who you put it on. That part's great. That being said, though, while this looks powerful, this is also one of the few Radiant items that can miss, right? Like, hypothetically, if you hit that wrong side, it does nothing. So it is one of the riskier ones to take, but man, when it pays off, it is real good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I also want to talk
about
Covalent Spark. Mort was telling me before, he was like, I don't know what Covalent Spark's name means.
Oh, calling me out.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'm just kidding. Mort is excellent at 9th grade chemistry.
Right.
But this is a silly chemistry joke. There's two types of bonds, ionic and covalent bonds, and
amazing.
I have a terrible sense of humor, and I thought this was funny.
I love it. As far as the item itself goes.
Also it's got a massive hex range.
Yeah, the 4 hex range is insane. This item does a lot of damage to, especially to a rapid cast team, but just like 400% of their max mana. That means like if a Heimerdinger casts, it's like he takes 560 damage.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty crazy. So
this is probably going to be one of the best responses to some of that you can muster to some of the like crazy mana start items, to like blue buff other mana gain traits. Is going to be dealing a mana gain traits.
Yep.
Other mana gaining items, it's going to deal them a lot of damage.
Yeah. Quick thing to call out: Zeke's and Chalice. We kind of skipped over them.
Yeah.
They are a little dull. We know this. We're actually planning on updating them. They probably won't be ready for day 1 of PBE, but those are actually at the top of our list right now for getting a Radiant buff. So be on the lookout for that on like day 2 of PBE. So cool. All right, next slide. Any you want to talk about here?
Yeah, really quickly. Zephyr, similarly to Shroud, we've given it a team-wide bonus and just upped its current positioning effect. So this is similarly something that can miss. I mean, not completely, it's going to hit someone, but you can hit a 1-star instead of like a 3-star.
The key unit, yeah.
That'd suck.
Yeah. I want to take this opportunity to call something out here too when it comes to like balance. If you look at something like Zephyr here, or Mistral as it's called, and it gives your whole team 20% attack speed. And then you just look at something like Deathcap, which is pretty basic, and it's like an extra 30 ability power, and maybe a little underpowered, maybe. But the thing to note is when balancing TFT, more power on your primary carry is way more valuable than diluted power across the team. So I would expect things like Mistral, like Shroud, might get to be a little crazier. We'll talk about Banshee's Claw in a bit. Then some of these like key DPS items. And so that's going to be the thing as we're balancing it. I mean, now that we have lots of levers, I could totally see Mistral going up to 25%, 30%, and still having trouble competing with things like Deathblade and Deathcap. But that's kind of the point. As long as we have these levers, we can get them balanced to a point where everything is interesting and worth taking. So again, give us the feedback, let us know what you think. But balance-wise, pretty confident in our ability to get it there.
Yeah.
Cool. Dragon's Will, new version of Dragon's Claw, should be good. And then Quickest Silver, probably one of the better named for sure. I think this item is probably one of the more dangerous, but we'll see. Because obviously being CC immune forever is dangerous. But the thing to note here is it doesn't keep you CC immune in overtime. So,
right.
Cool. All right, next slide. Anything you want to talk about here? Oh, I know there's a bunch you want to talk about here.
Yeah. First, Earth Angel's staff. I'm just generally stoked about. Giving a little bit of starting mana here is going to be a big boost for something that's really about getting multiple casts off.
Yeah.
It's going to make it a little bit less reliant on also having some other mana items, although obviously you're still going to want them.
Yep.
More Morellonomicon. I am very excited and nervous about. It's a ton of starting mana, and it's the same amount of starting mana as Frozen Heart.
Yeah.
But it's going on a caster where the whole point of that caster is getting the spell off early and applying the true damage to everyone as fast as possible so you can start ticking through that 20-second timer to deal their whole health bar. I put this on a Vel'Koz in a game recently when we were playing internally.
Yeah.
And that was going really well. And when I hit the 3-star Vel'Koz, it became just overkill.
Yeah.
So
this item is at the top of my probably going to get nerfed list right now, specifically because of cases like Kennen and Garen, where it's just instant cast, whole team Morello'd. By the way, in 20 seconds they'll be dead, and there's nothing they can do about it. That's probably the top of my nerf list right now, but we'll see. So if you're looking to day one PBE, maybe grab a Morella or more Morellonomicon when you can. So
yeah, that's one of the experiences you may not be able to have later on.
Exactly. I want to talk about Blue Blessing a little bit, because obviously we're coming off of Shadow Blue buff, which was a very confusing item and very abusive on a few CC champs, LeBlanc rides, things like that. So the question is, like, how are you going to follow it up? We went with 30 mana here, as we're pretty sure 30 mana doesn't break any particular champion. No champions really have a 30 mana pool. Because this is less powerful than, say, Radiant Shojin, it gets the Radiant bonus also of the ability power. But the thing to note here is any blue buff user that has a 20 mana pool actually can still use this item well, because if they get shrouded or hit by like Soraka with the Mana Reave, this will still let them go to instant cast. It basically is, I will always instant cast prevention. So I think that's why it even still has value on those champions.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then Jeweled Gauntlet. Crits go boom.
Yeah.
All right. Next slide. I'm going to talk about Fist of Fairness, because I think it is a hilarious name. As you know, the new Hand of Justice got reworked, so you get a little bit of both, and then it chooses one. Fist of Fairness says, well, in all fairness, you get both. So it's just a solid item. If you liked Shadow Hand of Justice, Fist of Fairness, even better. Any you want to talk about?
Yeah. Just as I was excited for Banshee's Claw, I am super excited for Banshee's Silence.
Yeah.
It's a free version for your whole team. But sorry, it's not really. but it gives the holder and literally the whole rest of your team both 150 health and a spell shield to block the first ability they get hit by.
Yep.
It's going to be really good against any AoE casters, and it'll just make you feel safe.
Yeah. But this is another one that feels really just generally pretty good. I think of all the team-wide ones, this is probably the strongest. But again, you are giving up a lot of offensive power by taking this, so
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if this actually becomes one of the S tier Radiant items.
So. The other thing that I'm super stoked about here is Radiant Redemption. Its radius is going up from 1 hex to 2 hexes, and it's healing for more. It's going to be just easier to use than base Redemption. Going to require a little bit less from you positioning wise, or if you want to really think about it super hard, you can get that thing healing your whole team.
Yeah, I'm scared of this in the redeemed corner comps with like the Knights and the Kales. I think this item's going to be an annoying thing to deal with, but we'll see.
I aim to be exactly that which you fear, Mort.
And then I do want to talk about Warmog's Pride really quick, just because I like this item only because it's Shadow Warmogs, but inverse. It's literally the same health, but instead of losing health, you gain health. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited about that.
So that brings us to our last slide, and I get to talk about this one. Rascal's Gloves, which is Radiant Thieves Gloves. Now, a lot of people, when they saw this, were like, well, this just seems like the best one because you get 2 Radiant items every roll. And you do. You get 2 free Radiant items. But in order to balance that, what we did, and we should probably add some text. I was almost wondering if, like, beginning of each planning phase, the holder equips 2 temporary chosen Radiant items or something. I don't know. We can definitely clarify that. But TLDR, they're handcrafted combinations. You're never going to get Infinity Edge plus Jeweled Gauntlet. You're never going to get double Warmogs. Like, that ain't happening. You can see here from the table, here is every combination that Rascal's Gloves can roll. And the general idea is the 2 items don't usually align. They're not necessarily bad, but they're not going to be, like, the perfect match. So, I don't know. Let's pick a random one here. Sunfire Cape and Deathblade. Not a lot of champions that, need a Sunfire and a Deathblade. But is it bad if your secondary carry has 2% health regen, burns nearby enemies, and has a bunch of AD? It's not bad. It's a lot of value. So, any particular combinations jump out at you, Chloe?
Not particularly, although I think some of the pairings with Zephyr are funny. Like, here's this super powerful offensive item. But also a Zephyr, in case you wanted it.
Yeah, Zephyr plus Frozen Heart. Nice. So yeah, that is the 36 Radiant items. That is the mid-set mechanics. Should be a lot of fun. Should be lots of cool things to go over and play. Chloe, any closing thoughts for you or anything you want to say to the players?
No.
All right. Well, on behalf of Chloe and myself and everyone who worked on these, thank you so much. Good luck on PBE later today. Although by the time you watch it, maybe it's already up, maybe you're already playing. We hope you enjoy. Give us your feedback. We'll be iterating before launch. So yeah, have fun. And that's going to do it from us. Until next time, take it easy.